Okay, let's do something a wee bit different this time. Rather than doing a playthrough of the game, we'll just do a quick kind of run through some of the rules, and if people like the idea, then I'll make a playthrough. So the game is Red Beach 1, and it's from Strategy and Tactics magazine, number 142, and it's from May 1991. So it's a bit kind of old school, but it is actually pretty good, and it is a solo game. So that's a good thing. The magazine includes the rule book inside. It's only about 8 or 9 pages, but it's still a kind of badly written rules, but I think I've managed to suss it and get it down. So this is the map. This is the map and most of the tables that you see there that are needed. At the very top is the kind of turn track, and I'll zoom in and I'll show you the different bits that you've got here. Right, the first thing is up here is the turn track. The turn track has 4 days, so it has this interphase, one or more day turns, then a couple of night turns. So that's one day across here, and there's another day, another day, another day. And this bit is a status track. Status track is just keeping a tab on how many airstrikes and destroyer strikes you've got, how many engineers you've got, that kind of thing. This one, Japanese resistance track. The whole thing kind of works on the Japanese having this resistance level, and the lower that gets, the more powerful you're becoming. So it starts off at 400, and it's got these multipliers, they come into play in the combat, so you really want to lower this as much as possible. This bit is the Japanese tactical table. This is just basically a table of all the bad things that can happen to you. Fantastic. And again, this relies on this, that is kind of tied to this resistance level, because when their level goes down, things get a bit easier for you. Terrain key just tells you different bits of terrain. Coastal defence chart is used when you're landing troops, and it ties to this table here. Right, the whole thing is basically American troops. There's almost no Japanese troops shown on the map unless you're told to do so in a roll. So you've got 3 boxes like this. You've got a red 1, red 2, red 3, and the idea being you have your troops 5 here, 5 here. They move to here, move down, and then eventually can come ashore. And some of these boxes have red numbers. Again, you probably won't see it there, but I'll zoom in at the time. And the red numbers will tell you, again, the red numbers are linked to this, which is linked to that, to bring the troops in. So the idea being all these boxes here are forts, Japanese fortifications you need to destroy. You need to destroy all of them to win the game. And it makes it unusual in that you can do as much movement in combat as you like, but it depends on the result that you get in your combat. It's probably out of shot, but there's a combat results table down here, which I'll show you at the time anyway. But even if you move in and destroy a fort, you could end up with a Japanese retaliation, which they call a tactical impulse, and even winning and destroying the fort can still come back and bite you. So it seems pretty easy, but it's actually kind of complicated at times. So I shall bring in some troops and I'll show you how it looks. Just before I put troops on the map here, I'll show you this. This is the second group. So what you have is you have 3 infantry and you have an HQ that's tied to those 3 infantry. You then have, this HQ is called the battalion HQ, it's tied to the regimental HQ. So the idea is that your 3 units need to draw a line of hexes on the map back to the battalion HQ, and that needs to draw a line of hexes back to the regimental HQ. Then you've got a line of communications. At that point you can call in airstrikes. So you've got to try and keep these guys near each other, and obviously you've got, this is the, I think it's the 1/2 group. There's also a 1/, there's also a 2/2 and a 3/2, and they've each got their HQs, but they all must tie back to this second regimental HQ. So it is pretty tricky in that regards, trying to keep a line of communications, but it's the only way to not start losing steps every turn. So let's land some people. Right, first thing about landing is that these are the little red numbers that I was talking about. So you've got an A there, there's a 3 there, a B there, and we have a 1 over here. These red numbers, they tie to a couple of charts that I'll show you, and these are going to tally up to give us a cross-reference with that resistance level to get a table column to roll on to see if we get hit. So yeah, bit complicated. Let me show you the tables. These are the 2 tables in question. This is how many red numbers are applicable to the landing box, and you cross-reference it with the resistance level. So at the start of the game it will be 400. So if we have 12 red numbers, then we would be rolling in column 3 of this table. And a 1 is a step loss, a star means an HQ gets disrupted, a 1 star means the HQ must take the hit. If there are no HQs, then it's just a 1 step loss. So that's what you need for the landing. Let me show you how the landing works. But before we do any landing, we're not going to just go in and land unprepared. What we're first going to do, and this only happens in the first day, we do a check for a pre-invasion bombardment. So what we do is we roll a dice, which I have here, and I have a 1, which is rubbish. A 1 is 25. So what it means is I am going to subtract 25 from the resistance level. So it will be 350, 370, 375. This game needs a lot of arithmetic. Right, the other thing we do is a pre-invasion airstrike, and that is, oops, a 3. That gets me 10, so I subtract another 10. So the resistance level is now 365. And I will also do one for a scout and sniper attack. That is going to affect the pier, which I'll show you, which is just over there. It means that we get to knock off a couple of forts at the start. So roll a dice, we get 1. Oh. That means that we get to destroy no hexes on the pier. I am going to, for demonstration purposes, I am going to cheat and make it a 4. This means I get to destroy 1 hex on the pier, and I will just shuffle across here, and we're talking about this pier here. What we do is we take 1 marker with a D on it, and we place that on the pier. That box has an A in it, so that means that it's one hex less to be firing at these landing places. So it's not the greatest of starts having one, but even then I had to cheat to get that. Right, with all that pre-invasion stuff done, we are now officially on to day one. Again, probably can't see it, it's very tiny. There's some numbers here, 3/2 and a 7. 3/2 is for airstrikes and destroyers. So we get 3 airstrikes, which I shall mark on the turn track, and we get 2 destroyers that we can use. So we can use them in this turn. The 7 is if we call an airstrike, we need to see if it screws up. And that 7 means it might screw up. Depends. Okay, now we can finally land people. Oh, right. There's some basic rules, but I won't go into the whole every single rule thing. But you have a whole unit here, and we have the regimental HQ there, and again another unit. The rules specify which groups that you use there on the landing for the very first time. You can put in more people if you want, it's entirely up to you. Right, we have to look at the amount of hexes here that can actually fire on these guys. The way it works is a number 1 can only fire on red 1. An A or a B can fire on red 1 or red 2. A 3 can only fire on red 3, and an A can fire on all 3. So it's kind of complicated and convoluted, but it just means that you've got to keep kind of counting hexes and stuff. So let's see, for these guys, they are in 1, red 1. So red 1, any hex with a red 1 or a red A or a red B is potentially going to hit these guys. So I'm just going to quickly count up. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. We have 13 hexes that can fire on these guys. Just like my example at the start with the charts, we are going to be on that bottom row, and we're going to be using column 3 of the results table. So to bring these guys in one at a time, we bring them to here and we say, okay, we know we're in column 3, so I'll just grab a dice. We know we're in column 3 of the combat result table for landing, so we roll a dice, we get a 4. We get a 4, but because there's still 2 hexes on this pier, we need to add 1. So that 4, whoops, becomes a 5. A 5 in the table is a 1, so this guy has to take a 1 hit step loss. Because it's a kind of magazine game, there's not a whole bunch of different variations of the chits. So it goes from being a 4 here to a 2 in the back, but we just put a 1 under it and say strength is 4 minus 1. That's the way you do it apparently. So this guy is now 3 steps. It's going to move into here, and again we do the same, roll dice. He gets a 5, which becomes a 6. A 6 is a 1 star, so it means that the HQ must take the hit. So the HQ takes a hit already. Moves down, same again. We get a 1. A 1 is a 1 star, which was the HQ, so the HQ is a goner. But the HQ can come back, but it's got to be the next day. So that will be the next interphase at the start, so I will place him up there. as a reminder. Moves to 4, gets another 4, means a 5, so he's got another step loss. So we take away the 1 and flip it to the 2 side. He then comes ashore, and you do that for each of these guys. So this guy gets to here. Again, these guys are the same. Column 3 on the landing results table. He gets a 4, which is nothing. Moves in. Gets a 4, which becomes a 5, which is a 1 step loss. So he loses 1 step. Gets to here. 5 becomes a 6. 1 star. There's no HQ to take the 1 star hit. So this guy's got to take the hit. So he becomes a 2. And last one for this guy, 6, which is another 1 step hit. So he now becomes a 1. And you can stack up units, but they have to be of the same type. So these guys are 3/2. These 3 guys are all 3/2, so yes, we can stack them. So this guy's a 2, this guy's a 1. They can go there. Same for this guy. 2 becomes a 3. That's a star. Doesn't do anything for him. Only applies to the HQ. Oops. We have a 2 becomes a 3. Again, star. No effect for this guy. Seems to be incredibly lucky. We have a 3 becomes a 4. 4 is nothing. I don't know why that's a 2. It shouldn't be. It should be a 4. He's not been hit. And last one is a 5 becomes a 6, where he does get hit. So he is now a 3, and we will group him with the rest of his guys. Ah! And he botches it. There we go. 1 nice big stack. Problem being, these guys can't move away too far because they don't have an HQ to trace a line of communications back to. So they've got to stay relatively nearby. Right, I will cut there. I will bring these guys in. Then I'll show you these guys slightly different. Right, let me show you how these guys come in. This left side is what they call an LCVP. The right side is what they call an Amtrak. And it's the same idea. This guy comes into this box. We're going to count up how many hexes apply to this landing area though, which is only going to be ones that are a 3 or an A. So that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So, yep, still the same column 3. So, he gets 6, which becomes a 7. So 1 star, so the HQ takes a hit. Right, this is where it slightly differs. Because it's Amtrak, we miss 2 and go straight to 3. And do the same again. 4 becomes a 5. It's just a 1 step loss. So he takes a 1 step loss and comes ashore. Done. And it's the same idea for these guys. Again, 2 becomes a 3. It's a star. A star alone means the HQ gets disrupted, which also happened to me here. The disruption means that the HQ can't take part in the line of communications, and you got to check to get it undisrupted again. So, gets to third box, gets a 5, and that's a 1 step loss. So, 1 step loss, and 1. So he then quite easily. It comes ashore and we're going to put him on top of this other guy, and they're a 3 each. So that's how you do the landing. I'll do the other 2 in a minute. The other thing we do at the very end, in fact while I'm explaining this I'll do it, is you have to check the Amtrak level, which is over there. I don't know if you'll see it, probably not, it's way up there. The Amtrak level is how many of these boxes get disabled potentially. 4, nope, nothing. So lots of 3s. And this guy. I don't know why, but the game tells you at the start it becomes a 3, which is a star disruption. He's already disrupted. The game tells you must make it a 6 to the starting value, and the HQ makes it alive. Way! You must make the starting value a 6. I'm not sure why, because you only have 5 boxes. No idea. Right. We need... Now this is one of the problems with this game though. Some of the tables are not on the map, and one of them is this one I need, which is the Amphibious Tractor Loss table. Snazzy name. So, I have it now. And again, we roll. Oh, sorry, we'll do 2d6. And we get a 9. A 9 cross-referenced with the resistance level means that I lose an Amtrak box, which makes no difference because I only have 5 anyway. But there you go. Right, that's the first part of a day turn. That was the landing phase. Next we have the ground phase. Right, one thing that makes the game kind of unusual is that you can do as much movement in combat as you want. The only thing that stops you is if you get any of these red results with a D or an R. A D or an R means that that stack would now be finished and can't move or do any more combat. But other than that, if you don't get a D or an R result, you're good. In fact, the D or the R can be anywhere on the table, sorry. The red ones just trigger what's called a tactical impulse, which means this attack is going to come back and bite you big time. It's inevitably going to happen, so I'm sure you'll see it in action in a minute. One other thing with the combat is that if you attack a hex, then the attack is considered simultaneous. So you say we are going to do it anyway, what the hell. We are going to attack this hex here. The idea is that we would go first, make a note of our losses, then the Japanese would go, make a note of their losses, and at the end of the combat, apply the 2 losses. But you can also get situations where one side gets the bonus to fire first. If we use airstrikes or destroyers, we get to fire first. Things like this hex side here, seawall hex side, means the Japanese get to fire first. That means that you have to apply the losses, then use that score to calculate the next part of the battle. So the idea being, and I'll show you here, that we're going to get weakened, then have to fire back with that weakened score on this hex. So I know for a fact with that hex seaside wall, the Japanese are going to get to fire first. That's a definite, no 2 ways about it. Right, here's how it works for the combat side of things. So the Japanese are going to fire first. What we do is, and I'm going to bring in some newly created props, specially for this, no less. Right, that number 2, that is the strength of that fort. we are going to multiply that by the multiplier that is under the resistance level track that I showed at the very start. At the moment it's a 4. So the Japanese is going to be 2 times 4 is 8. And this is where you've got to use lots of arithmetic. Oh, I don't like this. Now what we do is we tally up our score. So we have a 2, we have a 1, that's a 3, and we have a 3. So we have 6. We have 6 against their 8. So you turn it into the ratio and that gets you 1 to 1. So we are on the 1 to 1 column and the Japanese are going to go first. So we have a very slim chance of getting an R, which is good. So we have a 3. A 3 is a 2, so that's a 2-step loss that we need to take just now before calculating our score. So where's that guy that's a 2? Right, he is our 2-step loss. So he's a goner. Now we get to fire back. And let me just check on this because again it gets quite complicated. We're not using any modifiers, we're not using any destroyer or airstrikes, so we have to look at our strength here. We have a 1 and a 3. So we have a 4 in total. Both of these guys are infantry. Our multiplier then is down here. American infantry. I'll put it on that side. A 4. So we are 4 times 4, 16. We have a 16 strength and we divide that by the fort strength, which is 2. That gives us 8 to 1 odds. So we have a high chance that we are going to destroy that fort. The only problem being that if we get an R or a D to destroy that fort, then that is going to trigger a tactical impulse that's going to come back and bite us. So, as I said, it's inevitable. We have a 9. A 9 becomes a D star. D star is that the Japanese fort is destroyed. So we can then put a nice little destroyed marker on there. Lovely. But it also means that we get to take that 2, multiply it by 2 is 4, and we get to deduct that from the resistance level. So the resistance level drops and is now 361, I believe. And because we got a D, we can't do any more with that stack. We didn't get a red D, so there's no impulse, no Japanese impulse, which is good. So nothing came back to bite us on that one, but we now can't move these guys. So I'll show you another one and we'll use a destroyer. Right, let's use a destroyer this time. It's the exact same idea, but we don't need line of communications, but a destroyer attack will only work on these sea wall hexes. You know, we can't use a destroyer up here. You'd have to use an airstrike for that. Airstrike, you need to have all of your HQs and a line of communications for it to work. So there's no way we can call an airstrike because we don't have the battalion, the regimental HQ, which you need. Great, we don't get that until the next day. So let's go with these guys. Let's see what we've got here in total. We have a 3, a 4 and a 2. Right, we have a 3, a 4 and a 2. I'll probably forget that in a minute. Right, exact same idea. I'm gonna, for demonstration purposes, I'm gonna cheat and I'm gonna move to here. Just so that I can show you a hex attack without the seawall. So because we're going to use a destroyer, I will change that on the track. We're going to use a destroyer, which means we automatically get to fire first. Japanese don't get to fire first at all here. Nope. Destroyer overrules everything. So we are going to take the damage on them first. And this is where problems can occur. So we have the 3, the 4 is 7, and 2 is 9. So we have a strength of 9. They are all infantry. So again, we're down here. 9 times 4 is 36. 36 divided by 2, far more than 10 to 1. So we just use the 10 to 1 column. Either way, 10 to 1. So we're going to go 10 to 1 column, and we get 10, where are we, 10, 10, 10, destroyed. So we get to destroy that fort, and again, it is not a red D. So we're okay there. Now, again, for demonstration purposes, I'm going to say it is a red D. Okay, I'm going to say that we got 11, and it was a red D. What that does is automatically triggers a Japanese tactical impulse. So although we destroyed that, it's going to come back to bite us. And the way the tactical impulse works is we roll on, I hope you can see it, we're going to roll on the table over here of the table of bad things, as I said earlier, because that is what it is. We then roll 2d6. Can take that away. In fact, I'll need it in a minute, because we're going to have to cross-reference our roll with the Japanese resistance level. So we get 6. So we get a 6, and the Japanese level is over 300, so this is quite difficult when you're sitting down. We're going to be right here, and it's an M. The M is that we roll on this column of the table, and that is what is going to come back and bite us. So we have 9. 9 gets us nothing except a star. The star just means that if we had a tank, the tank would take a hit for that no matter what. So we got away lucky on that one. Definitely got away lucky on that. So that was a Japanese tactical impulse. And let's see. Next thing we do is we go into a recovery phase. I'll show you that. Recovery phase is just if you had any artillery that fired, you would flip it to its fired side, but in this recovery phase you flip it back to its other side where you can use it again. The other thing that it does in this part of it is these guys that are HQs that are disrupted, we can try and undisrupt them. Because that's a battalion HQ, both of them, a 1, 2 or a 3 will make them undisrupted and return them to normal. So 3, so that guy can go back to being normal. And check for this guy. Nope, he is still disrupted. So that is pretty much it for the recovery phase, and at that point you move your marker and you go on to the next day. Sorry, not the next day, I meant the next turn of this day. Gets quite complicated. Again, demonstration purposes, we're going to say that that is the end of this turn here of November the 20th. We then, once we've done the recovery phase, as I just did there, we now go into the dreaded night phase. So let me show you the night phase. Right, you've seen this table before, but in the night phase, the bad things become even worse. So, in the night phase, the US do no attacks whatsoever. They are just sitting there and they're going to get it big time. So what we do is, again, we roll 2d6 and we have a 4. So, we have a 4. But, this time, as I say, we are on night phase. So, rather than it being the daytime, which would be an S, we get a 3S. What that becomes is, we have to roll 3 times on the sniper column. So, I'll quickly show you that, but really it's just again the US taking hits. Right, here we are, we're on the S column, and we need to pick our 3 weakest stacks. They are going to take these hits. Now, we only have 3 stacks anyway, so we're going to roll on the table, see what we get. We get 8. Where are we? 8. Nothing. So nothing happens to this guy. This guy here, see, oh, 12. 12 is a 1 star, so this bundle here needs to lose a step. Well, this guy is only 2, this guy's 4, this guy's 3, so we'll take the guy that's a 3, make him a 2, makes things a bit easier. So, he got the hit, but, as I said, an 11 or a 12, if you get into this red zone, that triggers a Japanese tactical impulse. So, the next thing we would do is a tactical impulse and attack these guys again. But I'll move on, and the third guy's up there. They get an 11. No, no, no. Again, we're doing demonstration purposes here. Come on. Right, 9. 9 would get nothing on that one. So they got away okay. But that is how you do the night turn. But that table is pretty brutal at night turns, because some of the options, I'm just looking at them here, there's one that says 4mg plus. 4mg plus means that you need to pick 4 units and you need to roll on the machine gun table 4 times, 4 units, but the plus means you have to roll on that table again to take even more hits. And then if you get another 1mg or 1m plus, then you do 1 on the M table, but because of the plus, you roll again on that table. And you keep going until you get a result that doesn't have a plus at the end. So getting the one that we had, 3S, was an easy deal. So that table is pretty brutal. Let's see what else I need to tell. There's various other bits and bobs on that table that can pop up, which can be things like coordinated assaults. And that is where you bring in an actual Japanese unit, which I haven't showed you yet. That is one of the Japanese units. That can end up just getting plonked on top of your stack, and you have to fight and battle them. If you lose, they stay on the map. That kind of thing. So there's a whole coordinated assault thing. There's banzai attacks, which are a similar thing. So yeah, the night turn is not pleasant. So you do 2 night turns and as I say, you can't do any fighting on your side, you can't do any airstrikes or destroyer attacks, you just take lots of hits. So we're going to say that that's the end of that night phase. We're going to say it's the end of both night phases, and now we're into another day. Right, so we're going to say we've finished this last night turn and we're on to another day. We could then, if we wanted to, bring these two HQs back, which really we would have to. Going into another day, it makes things slightly different. As I say, you don't do the whole aerial bombardment and sniper attacks and all sorts. You just make sure that at the start of a new day, you make sure that everybody's got supplies that they can trace back to the beach, and you're going to do a naval fire, which deducts maybe 20-30 off the Japanese resistance level. You also roll to see if your engineers have all made it alive. You can use engineers, you can use, I think it's 3 per turn, and you've got 10 for a day. But they add about 10 to the combat, which is pretty good. But the higher amounts that you have in the combat, the more likely you're going to end up getting the Japanese impulse thing happening. So you've got to kind of wait up so that it doesn't go really badly wrong. When you change to another day, there's a couple of modifiers here that when you're rolling on the table. So we're now on November the 21st, November the 21st. If we roll on this table, we need to add 1 to the dice roll, so you get a worse result. So the later it gets in days, the worse result you're going to get on this table. So I think that is the basics of Red Beach 1. And if you want to see a full playthrough of it, then let me know, because I don't want to do a full playthrough of it and nobody watches it. So if you like it, let me know, and that way I know to make a playthrough of it. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.